Welcome to 3countcommentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about Smackdown from June 24th, 2022. Fairly good show. Not great. It was okay. Interesting decisions that are made. Bad decisions made. We'll talk about it. First, we got to get into the news and notes section. So, news, top news. Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis, has he's been suspended, they said, from being head of talent relations until the end of the investigation, which led to the investigation of the NDAs. He's been tied into with Vince McMahon. Johnny Ace has been the guy that everybody says is going to take the fall for this whole ordeal. Considering Vince has to actually sign contracts, I don't see how Johnny Ace could be the fall guy. That being said, we don't know what Johnny Ace's, what his involvement was. We're not entirely sure. He was mentioned only in terms of this young lady, this paralegal or whatever, being passed like a toy to him. Being passed like a toy is inflammatory language. We don't know exactly what that means, but we do know that I think she worked for him as a secretary or something in talent relations. We don't know if he did anything untoward, but we do know that Johnny Ace has been suspended for the duration of the investigation. He will be replaced by Bruce Pritchard. I got thoughts on Bruce, but first let's stick to Johnny Ace. Johnny Ace is an easy target because so many people are poisoned to not like him from the epic CM Punk promo. You know, for most people, Johnny Ace is just a glad hander. He's an empty suit. That's what he is for me. I don't necessarily have, strong feelings one way or the other about Johnny Ace. I can just say that, he seems to do what Vince tells him to do. And that is find attractive people to put on TV. And he catches a lot of heat for kind of being the guy who enforces the whole hire attractive people to be put on TV. And, he gets a lot of heat for that. So I don't blame Johnny Ace for doing his job. It's his job to provide the talent that his boss wants. It's the right thing to do. I don't understand in what place do you hire the kind of talent that you want to have personally, as if you're the guy who runs the company. No, it's Johnny Ace's job to hire the kind of talent that the company can push at the end of the day. And they're looking for bankable, marketable stars, and marketability 9 times out of 10 has to do with looks. So Johnny Ace getting a lot of heat for focusing on looks and focusing on different things that other people don't think are important in wrestling. Those people are mostly either political weirdos or people that have no conception of what succeeds in wrestling. Sure, you can be an Eddie Kingston and be successful, absolutely. But when you look at the kinds of people who are successful that WWE wants, they don't want an Eddie Kingston. It's sad to say because I like Eddie Kingston, but they don't want that kind of guy. Yes, it could be that they could get a Serena Deeb could be successful in the wrestling business, absolutely. But that's not what they want. They don't want Serena Deeb. She's too older looking. She's too mature looking. She's not sexy enough. And sex appeal matters, both in males and females. Vince knows that, Johnny Ace knows it, and Bruce knows it too. So Bruce is basically he's a thumbtack, just like Stephanie. Bruce is a thumbtack. He's just in this position. Probably won't be there for long. The question comes when it comes to Bruce is how can he run talent relations and Raw and SmackDown at the same time? It's just a lot of work. And to me, it seems like what the company is doing, and this is probably a mistake, but it's defensive, is they're creating a cocoon where they're not letting anybody new in. It would be natural that you would probably put somebody different in the Johnny Ace spot. This is where the time where you would, hire somebody with a different kind of background to put them in that role, just to save face on a corporate level. But they decided to go with an old faithful, that being Bruce Pritchard. But that also makes it look like a good old boy system and that the culture won't actually change. And that's become the new sort of talking point. That even if Vince doesn't get forced out, if nothing happens, then what about, still, we got to talk about the culture of the company where all the same people is working together. That's the whole thing with Stephanie. This is kind of as an add-on, because I had no intention of talking about this. But apparently Meltzer says that Stephanie was voted in as CEO by people that were not Vince, herself, Nick Khan, or Triple H. So that means some of the other people on the board actually voted for Stephanie. And that's how she got the job. But of course, public perception is that's Vince's daughter. He's just closing ranks. He's going to get rid of Johnny Ace. He's going to put another puppet in his place. That being Bruce Pritchard, a guy who's been there forever. Culture is not going to change. And that's what a lot of people want to see, is they want to see that the culture is going to change. That, somebody's going to actually do something. But as long as Vince is there, then people like Bruce are going to have jobs for life. At one position or another. Even if he fires Bruce, he doesn't fire him for long. So I don't really see the changeover from Laurinaitis to Pritchard mattering that much. To me, Laurinaitis is an empty suit. Bruce can do that job perfectly well. My question is going to be, who's going to run Raw and SmackDown while Bruce is doing that? If Bruce is going to have to do both, that sucks. That's a lot of work to put on this guy. That's a lot of work for that guy. So maybe they'll do something else. Another backstage WWE thing, because this is all the rage now, is Triple H is back in the PC. I simply cannot save this for NXT. It would have been almost a week old by that point in time. So Triple H is back in the PC, which leads people to believe that he is about to take back over NXT and turn NXT right, after Shawn Michaels did a great job of building NXT 2.0, building new stars, presenting and repackaging older stars. Shawn has done a tremendous job in NXT, and I think they've been shitting on it just because of the presentation, and it's not being what they want it to be, which is all indie darlings. Shawn has done as good a job as anybody at introducing new stars and making new people that I want to see. I'm just going to talk about myself personally. I could say that, NXT's ratings have crept up slowly over the last couple of weeks. And these were taped episodes. And the ratings went up, the last 2 weeks. So it's finally starting to kick in. People are finally starting to get used to the roster and used to the formula. Guys like Carmelo Hayes and guys like Tony D'Angelo and Braun Breaker and Tiffany Stratton and Nikita Lyons. And people are starting to catch on. The last thing I want is for Triple H to come in and we're going to go back to black and gold and ruin everything. And I'm not going to hold you up. I'm enjoying the fresh take of NXT. I don't care if other people don't like it. To me, sometimes you do have to blow things up and start over, even successful things. Sometimes you get stuck in a rut and you have to do things differently. This has been a problem with WWE for a long time, is they seemingly hold on to things a little too long. It's a classic wrestling problem. Something is successful, you hold on to it too long. People think that, too many Brock and Roman matches, and there's too much John Cena. We need to let go of that stuff. We need to let go of the past and do new stuff. And I agree. Occasionally we do need to let go of the past and do new stuff. And I'm not going to be standing in the way of that. And I think NXT 2.0 is a good place to start, because by the time everybody's sick of Roman and Seth Rollins, and it's time for those guys, they start getting inching closer and closer to 40 and getting closer and closer to getting out of the business. Shawn has done a great job of setting up new talent that can just move into that spot and, already have the seasoning, name changes, all that stuff. We've already done it. We could just push them on in. That's what NXT is for. That's NXT's job, to create the next generation. I don't see Triple H's vision, hopefully, won't change that. Hopefully he will just continue to do what he's been doing. Maybe maybe we got it all wrong and he won't come in and actually change anything. Maybe it'll just be him working out, evaluating talent, going back to doing tryouts and stuff like that, and Shawn will continue booking the show. Who knows? We have no idea what they're actually going to do or what their plans are. But it was good to know that Triple H is back in the PC, because it actually works out that he is, in good enough shape and feels good enough to go back. And it would be easy to make jokes about, not too long after Stephanie gets the CEO seat and she's sitting in the God chair absorbing all her McMahon powers, and the first thing she does is puts her husband right back in the PC where he was before and gives him all his authority and power back. And that's a cool joke, but it seems like everybody's told that joke, so I'm not going to tell it. I'm just going to let it speak for itself. But I will be paying attention to NXT, because I already do. But I want to see if the booking actually changes. Sean has done a great job. Again, his booking of NXT 2.0 has mirrored, to a degree, his booking of NXT UK. So we'll see if it actually changes or not and goes back to the way it was. We've seen some swings already with the whole Roxanne Perez tag team thing, and not going with the title picture, the singles title. I don't like that. I don't like it. But whatever. Okay. Two more segments. We're gonna be here for a while, dog. All right. So apparently there's like 7 or 8 law firms trying to get investors to sue WWE. It is literally the same thing I talked about before. What ends up happening on Wall Street is when you show some signs of weakness, there's blood in the water. So what happens is a bunch of law firms decide there could be all these different kinds of financial problems that could be under fraud, wire fraud, all these different things. And these organizations, these law firms, they specialize. So what they're doing is they're soliciting. I know a lot of people, because wrestling media, they have no scoops. They're just looking and seeing who is suing WWE, who wants to sue WWE. It's like pretty much any law firm that deals in Wall Street wants to look to see whether they can get a piece of this, because the company has shown some weakness and the stock price has gone down. The stock price was like $59 last time I looked, which was like $9 down from what it was a couple of days prior to, but obviously things of the stock market is suffering right now in general. I don't know enough about the stock market to know whether their stock is dropping faster than the average, because I know everything is tanking right now. And it's easy for people to look at and correlate the drop in WWE stock to what's going on with Vince. And that could be part of it, but it could also just be part of the general trend of the stock market going down. But I don't know enough about the situation to say that one is more important than the other. Just put it like that. But I do know the stock has gone down. So there's going to be people who are going to be thinking that the company knew more about the investigation. The investigation was going on for 2 months before anybody knew about it. That's one of the things that people are saying, that investors were defrauded or investors were denied information, that, possible insider trading, all these sorts of things. The dirt sheets have not been using the appropriate language. Some of them have been. I'll put it like that. I think PW Insider and a couple of others says that these companies are looking to investigate WWE, which is the appropriate thing to say, because that is exactly what's happening. These companies are looking for reasons to sue WWE. It's just investigations. Who knows how long this will last? Who knows how many companies are going to show up? It's been like half dozen right now. So it's like 6 or 7, maybe even 8. But they all focus on different financial crimes. So it seems like a lot, but we'll see how it really turns out in the end. Anyway, along with that, because we have the dirt sheets have no scoops. What they've started doing is telling us what the shadow people and these silhouettes backstage, what they think of Vince, and how morale is in the locker room, and what's Vince like in the locker room. What is his mood? And I'm just looking at that stuff like, man, what the fuck? It's just so much crazy speculation coming out of this stuff. Nobody knows whether this crap is even true or not. All this is absolute horse shit. We don't know whether Vince is happy or not, or what his mood was. 9 times out of 10, they didn't know either. You know, like he was smiling when he was on TV, but that was pretty much it. We don't know if he's really crying on the inside or if he's been combative or angry or whatever. You know, I don't know. But I doubt the dirt sheets know either. You know, they might be getting told whatever. Again, no scoops. Is it the janitor? Is it one of the cameramen? Who is telling them this stuff? And why? You know, what are they getting out of it? Because we do see the dirt sheets do prey a lot on people who are disgruntled within the company. And there are some people in the company who are disgruntled. And they don't, or they might be politically motivated, and they don't like that Vince McMahon is doing the whole showing up on TV thing, and they didn't care for it or whatever. Which is their opinion, but they should go on record, you know, and not try to tell people like this is what a lot of, because it leads people who are just observing. It leads a lot of those people to think that it's a lot of people who are upset or a lot of people who are disgruntled or whatever. It could just be one person. It could be nobody and they're really making it up. So that's what the dirt sheets are doing. All right, so this is the last thing. And this is this kind of comes in a little bit late. So Becky Lynch went on Instagram and she is reacting to the whole Roe versus Wade thing. I'm going to talk about this one more time. I've talked about abortion twice on this channel. CM Punk, and I think it was another time I talked about it. So I didn't feel the need to discuss Roe versus Wade again. All the decision did, the Roe versus Wade decision that was made on June 24th, 2022, all the decision did was say there is no constitutional protection to abortion provided by the United States Constitution. It is a state issue. The states now have to deal with the abortion issue. The federal government should not. The Roe versus Wade, the law itself, as it was being followed, was not based on anything legal. When you look at our Constitution, abortion is not in there. What it does say is 10th Amendment. Any issue that is not enumerated within the Bill of Rights, so the first 10 amendments of the United States Constitution, is a state's issue. I know that a lot of people are focused on the afterwards, like Obergefell and a lot of the other decisions like same-sex marriage and what was that, contraception, and another one that Clarence Thomas suggested that maybe we have to relitigate those things too. Now, the point is those issues like same-sex marriage, contraception, and a lot of other issues, they were not passed with any type of legal or constitutional grounding. They were passed basically on cultural issues that, you know, sometimes it is the right decision. Like, I know people are going to get upset about this, but gay marriage, that's a right decision, but it was going through the wrong venue. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm gonna have to explain this because I hate people leaving people in the lurch because they might be a little confused. What happened is when the gay marriage came up for vote, they tried democracy in California. They tried to get gay marriage legalized in California, the state that's gay as hell right now. It was voted down at the time. So undaunted, those individuals fought in the court system until they got to the Supreme Court. They had a favorable Supreme Court, and even though there is no constitutional right to gay marriage, they granted them gay marriage. That is exactly the same thing that happened with Roe versus Wade. It's exactly the same thing, you know? So when Clarence Thomas said we might have to relitigate those things too, what he's saying is there for years, there was an activist court that was going through passing all kinds of stuff that had no constitutional grounding. We might have to go through and overturn all that stuff. That's what he was saying. He's not saying gay people shouldn't get married. He's saying it's a statewide issue. It's a state issue. And I think that the state's issue is the best venue for it. Now, to me, that's just kind of what it is. But that was a lot of setup for the Becky Lynch tweet. So, well, it was on Instagram. She says, I am angry and heartbroken over today's decisions. We deserve the right to choose. Vote, fight for women's rights, donate, do what you can. We cannot go backwards. Not inflammatory at all. And because it wasn't inflammatory, I respect her decision. But, she's from Ireland. And Ireland, I think went nuts when it comes to abortion not too long ago. If I remember, in fact, I think they might have just legalized it within the last 10 to 15 years, I think. But Europe is pretty, I think the United States is actually a little bit more lax than Europe when it comes to abortion. So hopefully this is the last time I'll have to talk about abortion on this channel for a while. Kane absolutely got ripped. I mean, it's a news story because so many wrestlers came out and was talking about him. Taya, Rosemary, Tony Deppen. So he was getting it from GCW wrestlers, Impact wrestlers, NWA wrestlers, independent wrestlers that came from absolutely nowhere. But there was a lot of hate and vitriol, no respect whatsoever. Just a lot of hate and vitriol, and people calling him a Nazi, and people saying that he was, he should be killed. And it was a lot of ridiculous stuff that people were saying that shows a couple of things. One is that, mob violence and that mob mentality is so deeply ingrained in certain people that it leads them to, just their brains are just not, it's mush after a while, And when you have to consider also, I'll give people some credit. It's, for some people, it is an emotional decision because they've attached, some people have attached their emotions to their politics, and they get this sort of blow to their emotional core and they lash out. They're looking for somebody to get mad at. And there's some nutcases out there that are trying to say they're going to assassinate Clarence Thomas. There's other idiots talking about firebombing the Supreme Court, dissolving the Supreme Court, ignoring the Supreme Court. There's all kinds of, like, what's happening with Kane, as bad as it is, pales in comparison to some stuff that people are really, really saying. And there's some people out there that are really out of their fucking minds. I'm talking completely gone mentally. I'm talking completely ideologically captured and fucked up. They're saying fucked up stuff, and they're pretty much projecting. And Kane made himself a lightning rod. He put himself in that position where he's going to say stuff. And he got attacked for it. Linda McMahon also apparently celebrated the passing or the destruction of Roe versus Wade. She was also attacked. But she was attacked for a different reason. She was attacked because she was actually pro-life at one point. Well, not pro-life, I mean pro-choice at one point. The crazy thing is you can still be pro-choice and just not be federal pro-choice. We cannot lie and say that it's a constitutional right. That's the thing. Some people are pro-choice and still be like, okay, well, it was the wrong venue. Right idea, wrong venue. I'll just get it passed in my state. That way we don't have to deal with this anywhere else. And you look, some people don't care about politics until it starts affecting them anyway. But that's kind of how it's starting to boil down. That's how it works. People wanted this whole, it's a constitutional right, but it's like any idiot can read the Constitution. You'll never see the word abortion in there. At least if you pick one up within the next couple of months, you ain't going to see it. So until they pass a constitutional protection or an amendment or something to that effect, it's not in there, and you could try to slip here and there, Fourth Amendment, Ninth Amendment, whatever. You could try it, but no, it's not in there because you're not talking about a single individual in relationship with the government. You're talking about a single individual in relationship to another individual, which is the fetus, Sure, the government can't force you to give birth. The government can never be able to force you to give birth. They don't, so that shouldn't even be the issue. We had Roe versus Wade didn't exist for 150 years or some shit before it was magically found in the Constitution. But I just felt like I had to discuss that issue because Becky Lynch talked about it and because Kane and Linda McMahon are getting roasted. But I respect that Becky Lynch was at least respectful and saying, hey, you know, we got to do something different because I guess she's an American citizen now, so maybe she'll be living here. I don't know. But finally, 25 minutes, almost a half hour into this thing, we're finally going to get to SmackDown. Drew McIntyre opened the show, welcomed us to SmackDown, said that no matter how many matches he's won, Roman is ducking him, and that he'll have to force his hand by winning the Money in the Bank match. It says he likes doing things the hard way while Brock likes doing things the Brock way. And it doesn't matter who wins at SummerSlam, he's going to Claymore that guy and walk away as Mr. Money in the Bank. Sheamus came out there, oi! What's going on, fella? You think you're going to win your Money in the Bank, huh? You think you're going to be the Money in the Bank winner, huh? No. Shamey. Oh, Shamey already cashed in his Money in the Bank on Roman Bleeding Reigns. And then Paul Heyman comes out. And Paul Heyman says that he acknowledges that the winner of the Last Man Standing match, which will be Roman Reigns, as in his mind, will be weakened after the Money in the Bank. After the Last Man Standing match, an easy target for the Money in the Bank winner. And since both of them have already suggested that they'll be winning the Money in the Bank, he wants to try to get rid of them. So he turns it over to Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce says, "Well, I was hasty to put both of you guys in. I was overruled by the office. Neither of you will be in the Money in the Bank ladder match." And he said, and they both got pretty upset and then said they had to beat the Usos in a qualifying match tonight. And I just said, this is stupid. It's stupid. This is the can they coexist Money in the Bank. This is stupid. This is fucking dumb. All right. Listen here, man. What the fuck? Why did you put the Usos in this position? That's the thing that really freaks me out. Why would you put the Usos in this position? Because now we know they're going to fucking lose. Why are they losing to a non-fucking tag team? They losing to a can they coexist tag? They're the fucking tag team champions. Couldn't you literally have found anyone else to do this shit with? You could pull a Tony Khan and had Jimmy Uso versus Sami Zayn and have Sami Zayn get pinned. You know, you could have done anything except pin the fucking Usos in this match to put Drew McIntyre and Sheamus in this match. It made literally no fucking sense, and they did it anyway. It's so fucking dumb. That shit is so fucking frustrating because nobody is allowed to get any type of momentum. You know, and it's crazy to me that the Usos would even agree to it. Like, I know, you know, Jimmy with the DUIs, maybe he ain't got no political stroke. But I would have been like, yo, what the fuck? We are the undisputed tag team champions. Why are we getting pinned by these fucking guys? You know, they should have went into now Bruce Pritchard's office and laid all 4 of their fucking belts down and walked out. Like, what the fuck? This the creative? You're not going to find 2 other guys who say we should be in the Money in the Bank match and you should have to beat us or whatever. Maybe they should have to beat 2 people who are already qualified to be in the Money in the Bank match or something. Anything. They should have to roll dice. They shouldn't have to beat the fucking Usos. What the fuck? And Paul Heyman, wouldn't it have been smarter for him if he says we're going to get a Money in the Bank exemption for that night only? That, you know, SummerSlam will be Money in the Bank free. You will not be able to cash in your Money in the Bank on the SummerSlam. That way, you can't get an easy way out. I'm going to preempt that. You know, that would have been smarter, right? Instead of taking them out of the match, which I don't care. Why should he care if they're in the match? He should try to denut the. That's not even a word. He should have to castrate. There you go. Castrate the denut. I'm tired. You should have to castrate the Money in the Bank by limiting it for that one night only. They can't use Money in the Bank, which means that they will have to use it before or immediately after. You know, so that would be an interesting thing. And I think it's kind of weird that Drew McIntyre, who is a babyface, is saying that he's going to attack the winner of the match. It's like, come on. What happened to the gallant warrior hero of Drew McIntyre? What the fuck? Now he's talking about he's going to attack people from behind and kick them in the head after they have last man standing matches. I know it's smart, but Again, he just literally said out of his mouth he doesn't like doing things the easy way. So why the fuck would he take the easy road? And then it wasn't too long ago that I believe he was in character when he said he wanted to do the whole Clash at the Castle thing. That makes more sense for Drew McIntyre to do Clash at the Castle than to do it at SummerSlam to win the title. Come on, man. This is just bad writing. It's horrible, shitty writing. And then it was immediately followed up by good writing. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn. Now, Sami Zayn is backstage. He's cutting a promo. And he says it's going to be a great night for the Bloodline. He didn't know the Usos was going to lose yet. And he says he's going to do what's right and dedicate his match to Roman Reigns. And once he wins the Money in the Bank, he will not cash in on Roman Reigns. He says he will never do that. He's going to win the Money in the Bank to protect Roman Reigns. And I thought this was fan-fucking-tastic. That's a great, great character angle. So he is trying to get Paul Heyman later in the show after he qualifies because he defeats Shinsuke Nakamura in a pretty good match. They always have good chemistry. Well, Paul Heyman is backstage talking to Kayla Braxton. And Sami Zayn's like, no. Don't talk to her. She tried to insinuate that I would cash in the Money in the Bank on our tribal chief. And I would never do that. I would never, ever, ever do that. And Paul Heyman puts his arm around Sami Zayn and is like, good boy. You're very smart. And then, and then Sami Zayn was like, but I would cash in on Brock Lesnar. And Paul Heyman took his arm from around Sami Zayn and looked at him. And now, there's two ways to take this, of course. One way is Paul is in his twisted on again, off again relationship with Brock Lesnar. The second way is the right way to take it, which is he's assuming Roman could lose. And that's the wrong way. That's the wrong thing to do. If you're in the bloodline, you're not supposed to assume that Roman could lose. What is wrong with you? Why are you even thinking about Roman losing? Erase that from your mind. Write it down on a sheet of paper, draw a line through it. You know, you're not supposed to be thinking about Roman losing. So that was great. So Sami Zayn did try to help the Usos later. The Street Profits were out there. It was a big schmoz. I was, to be quite honest, man, I was like, this sucks. You know, it sucks because why would you put the Usos in that position? Why would they agree to do it? And why would Roman let it happen? You know, like neither Sheamus nor Drew McIntyre needed to win this match. And the Usos didn't need to be in it because they didn't need to lose. So, and it didn't put any heat on the Street Profits, really. If you really wanted to get heat on the Street Profits, what they would have done is had them attack Sheamus and and the fellas, the Brawling Brutes. That's really what he should have done. Where it should have been like Butch is out there, and Butch is his desire to get him some of Drew McIntyre was great shit. By the way, I need to respond. I need to talk about that. In every segment that those two were in together, Ridge Holland is grabbing Butch because Butch wants so badly to get him a piece of Drew McIntyre. But that seemed like the perfect targets to start a fight. And then as they are fighting outside the ring, Sheamus goes out there to help his boys, and then the Street Profits bop him. So there's disqualification. Usos lose by disqualification. That would have been a better way to do this if you had to do this. But you didn't have to do this. You know, it's stupid. It's WWE stuff. It's fucking dumb. I hate it so fucking much. This wasn't the only stupid fucking decision they made the whole night. We'll talk about another one later. This one was fucking dumb, though. But I did love the Sami Zayn idea of having the Money in the Bank to protect Roman. I am now 100% in on Sami Zayn winning the Money in the Bank. It needs to happen. Because I want that storyline of Sami Zayn having the briefcase and people teasing that he's actually going to do it. The crowd wants him to do it. That's what I want. You know, because if he has the briefcase and he's already hanging around with Roman, and Roman's trying to buddy up to him, kind of like Triple H did with Batista when he won the Royal Rumble, where you kind of like, yeah, this is my guy, you know. He's going to just hold on to that briefcase and he's never going to cash it in. Or, better yet, give it to Paul. Let Paul hold it for you. That way he can never actually, Paul 1 minute, Jimmy or Jay the next week or whatever. Just always somebody else holding on to the briefcase so he can't use it. Just kind of slipping it in and out of his hands, or somebody goes into the briefcase and snatches the contract out of there. So if he actually does try to cash it in, there's no contract in the briefcase. That kind of stuff. You could have so much fun with that. And that would be a great character angle too. Just imagine that. Sami Zayn wins the Money in the Bank. He goes several weeks, maybe a month or two, several months actually, maybe not even until the Royal Rumble, of not cashing in the Money in the Bank. He's been a good boy. He's letting Paul or whoever hold the briefcase. And then they finally start to trust him. They give him the briefcase back. And now he's tempted to actually use it. Roman's in a tough match with, Lashley, whoever. And Sami Zayn, the crowd is like, Sami Zayn, cash it in, cash it in, cash it in. And then Sami Zayn gets in the ring. And the crowd is just cash it in, cash it in, cash it in. And then Sami Zayn's like, okay. And he tries to cash in the Money in the Bank, and the referee opens the briefcase and there's no contract in it. And then we realize that the Usos or somebody, or maybe Paul Heyman has the contract. Like, we couldn't trust you. And we put Sami Zayn on the spot. Like, that would be great fucking character work. There's I forget what it's called, but it's an old Greek idea about trusting people with power. It's about, I think it's some kind of object, the Ring of Gyganes. I think it's called Ring of Gyganes. It's about a ring that can make you invisible, and it's a test of whether you can be trusted with power or not. So if you had this ring, what would you do? Alan Moore answered this question when he created the Invisible Man for the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. If you probably seen the movie, you probably didn't know the comic book existed, but the Invisible Man in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, when you introduce to him, he's a multiple rapist because he can't be seen. So he goes into this girl's dormitory and he's just raping all these girls. And it's written like it's supposed to be funny. Like, the girls are popping up pregnant and they're saying that they've been, it's all divine, that, they're not having sex. There's no boys for them to have sex with. So, when the lady who is, I forget what her name is, she's putting together the group, she comes to find the Invisible Man. He's got some young girl, it's an underage girl too, I'm pretty sure. And he's got her like bent over, or, her legs spread wide open. And she's, hooting and hollering and everything because he's just going to town on her because she can't see him. They think they're, giving birth to the next Jesus or whatever. It's just a fucking guy who's invisible. But that's the kind of idea that I'm thinking of with Sami Zayn. That you could do something where you give him this power, and then you see if he can be trusted with it. Can the bloodline really trust Sami Zayn? And then you find out that they can't, and then they have to beat him to death. And then they proceed to, after Roman wins the match or whatever, they proceed to just pummel Sami Zayn into submission. And then we stretcher him off or something like that. And that could be like Sami Zayn's face turn. And yes, he was betraying his friends in the bloodline, but it's Roman Reigns. He's been a fucking asshole for 3 years. I'm pretty sure people will get over it. That Roman was betrayed by Sami Zayn. I'm pretty sure they'll get over it. But I think that would be a great storyline. I doubt they would do it though. Something tells me they're probably just gonna give it to fucking Seth Rollins so they can do the whole heist of the century all over again. I'm not a fan of that. Also not a fan of the next segment. New Day is hanging out with Jinder Mahal and Shanky. It was supposed to be a match, but the New Day got on the microphone and said that New Day do not engage in countless rematches. They've already beat Jinder and Shanky, and since they don't engage in countless rematches, which is a knock. This is Xavier Woods being super AEW right now, because AEW has to be meta like this. They're obviously mentioning the whole Brawl and Brutes thing when those guys wrestle for like 2 months straight. So now they're saying we don't do that stuff, as if they've never done it. And they want to change things up, so they want to do a dancing challenge. Everybody wants to see Shanky dance. So Xavier Woods plays trombone, Shanky dances. Jinder Mahal tries to stop it. Him and Shanky get into it. Shanky shoves him. Jinder was like, ah, and he leaves. And we left with Shanky dancing. Then we get that horn. And we're like, wait a minute. We begin build up for the Viking Raiders. And they go, and you're like, uh-oh. So then we get a new picture of the Viking Raiders on the screen, and they look like the Powers of Pain. If the Powers of Pain were shorter, flabbier, and paler, you know? So the Viking Raiders in their brand new face paint. They look like they lost some weight. They've been gone for a little while. They jumped all three guys from behind and beat them up. Later, they announced that they were back and that they're tired of being overlooked and forgotten. Never again. And I was like, okay, as long as they're going to take these guys seriously, I'm okay with it. I really would have preferred for these guys to be the partners of Drew McIntyre to help him nullify the Usos so he get a fair match for the title. I think that would have been great. But reintroducing them as heels, perfectly fine. I'm okay with that too. I don't hate these guys though. I think they were kind of boring, but I think they also had run they are great athletes. It's a good tag team, but they're indie style tag team where they're big guys who do flips and cartwheels and shit, But I like them as a team. I really do. I think they were kind of miscast as the babyface team. And they've been a babyface team since they showed up. I do think that they probably should, probably move away from the Viking thing as much. I think a repackaging of them would be so much better than what they did. They just put face paint on them and they lost weight. I think that they should probably repackage them, completely. But, whatever. It is what it is. So something else that was that had the makings of a good idea, but it didn't quite work out. Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville says that Adam Pearce is in over his head when it comes to the women's division. That she has been on the roster for several weeks now. Couldn't get a match. While Raquel Gonzalez came off of a farm in Texas and got a match. A qualifying match for Money in the Bank. Lacey Evans was gone for a year. Came back with a crybaby. And now she's got a Money in the Bank match. And she doesn't. And she thinks that this is Adam Pearce's fault. And she said, don't blame it on me that your in-ring career was disappointing. So Adam Pearce was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to put you in a match against Lacey Evans and Raquel Gonzalez tonight. And it's a handicap match. And I was like, what? Look, I get it. We're doing revenge karma on Sonya Deville. I get it. That's the thing. But we're talking about baby faces abusing their authority here. We can't really do that. That doesn't make sense to do. And it doesn't make sense for Sonya Deville to participate in this. So when Sonya Deville comes out, she was actually pretty confident, so which tells me that she had something up her sleeve. Now, instead of having the surprise and having Shayna Baszler and Xia Li kind of jump out of nowhere, she had them come to the ring with her, and she wrestled the match fairly. And it's 2-on-1. So you got two baby faces. Why would Lacey Evans or Raquel Gonzalez agree to do this? You would think, this is what I mean by people not knowing how to write or book baby faces. One of them should have got on the microphone and said, look, we're not doing this. I don't need any help to beat you. How about I'll fight you one-on-one? Or if you want to have a handicap match, how about you three versus us two? And that would be the handicap match. And then let, Sonya Deville accept it or whatever. And that would have been better. Because you never really why would you give the baby faces the numeric advantage? And why would the baby faces accept it? It makes no sense. It makes literally no sense. It did not make Lacey Evans or Raquel Gonzalez look good. And it certainly didn't make Sonya Deville look smart or good. It actually undercut her character. Like, sure, it's smart that Sonya Deville knew she was going into a handicap match and had backup. Okay. But her backup didn't come into the ring and get disqualified, which is what you would think. That she would get in the match would start, and then maybe Sonya gets in trouble and we just come on in. Xia Li and Shayna Baszler just come into the ring and we get a disqualification and we throw it all out. which seemed like it would have made the most sense to do. Again, strategic disqualifications. They decided not to do that. Instead, they just had Lacey Evans pin Sonya Deville. And we didn't want to have Sonya Deville lose a one-on-one match, so there that go. Come the fuck on. Why would you do this? For starters, why is Sonya Deville not in the Money in the Bank? I'm pretty sure this is her road to get there. And to me, she's one of my favorites. I like Sonya Deville. I think she would be excellent as a Money in the Bank winner. But they did some really weird shit where, and I know this is going to rub some people the wrong way, but I'm going to say it anyway. She came out wearing the rainbow, like the pride colors. And it's Pride Month. And they had the only openly gay lesbian, only openly gay wrestler on the roster right now that I can think of, losing a handicap match to two baby faces. What the fuck did you do that for? You know, like, why would you even do that? Look, Sonya Deville losing is not a problem. Sonya Deville being draped in the rainbow and losing is not a problem. But putting her in a position where she's a baby face wearing the rainbow and get beat is silly. Why would you do that? It's so stupid. All of it's stupid. You know, it's just so dumb. After the match, it was a big scrum. It was a 3-on-2 fight. And, it was the purpose of this whole brawl segment was so Raquel Gonzalez could look strong fighting them off, which she did. You know, she fought off Xia Li. She fought off Xia Li and Sonya Deville by herself. So that was fun. That was fine. But all of this is so weird. You know that anybody wearing pride colors during Pride Month is going to be a baby face. You know that. So why would you put her in this position? Why would you even let her wear the rainbow out there, knowing that she's probably going to get cheered for that? That's a mistake. And then as soon as you do that, you put Lacey Evans and Raquel Gonzalez in a weird position that now they have to beat up the Rainbow Warrior. What the fuck? Why would you do that? You need an editor. You need somebody who is thinking about this kind of stuff. And Sonya Deville needs to get in that Money in the Bank ladder match. I don't know how she's going to get in there because I literally cannot think. Well, unless Aaliyah can come back. We'll talk about that in a second. But I literally am stunned that they didn't put Sonya Deville in the ladder match. And instead, they had her do this. And again, it makes sense. Karma. She was being abusive for her power, and now she's the victim of abuse. But it's still bullshit. All right. So Ronda Rousey came out, and at least we all thought it was Ronda Rousey until actually commentary ousted it that it was Natalya. Now, I couldn't tell the difference myself. Like, when she was coming out pushing a stroller, I'm like, why is Ronda Rousey pushing a stroller? And it wasn't until commentary said anything, because I was kind of like looking and not looking. I'm not that interested in Ronda Rousey. That it was Natalya. I was like, oh shit. Dare they make Natalya entertaining? Are they about to attempt the impossible? Like, WWE can't even get simple shit right. You know what I'm saying? They're about to try the impossible and get Natalya to be entertaining. So I literally started paying attention. Natalya cuts this promo as Ronda Rousey without actually mocking Ronda Rousey at all. Mocking her monotone voice or anything like that. She just kind of, I'm Ronda Rousey. And then started acting like Ronda Rousey. Where, you know, my judo and my arm bar and yada, yada, yada. And saying that I'm going to tap out right now. And since I don't stand a chance, I'm just going to hand over the championship. And I'm going to apologize to all my rowdy ones. I was like, rowdy ones? I didn't know Ronda Rousey had a fan base with a name. Like, I love when wrestlers name their fan base. You know, the Clique, the Creatures of the Night. I love all that stuff. The rowdy ones? The rowdy ones? Oh, no. That sucks. And she says that I'm the saddest woman on the planet. After she said she's going to push her stroller and leave WWE and all that kind of stuff. This led to the real Ronda Rousey to come out there. And it says that she didn't recognize Natty without her rack out. It then said that Natty mutilated her body to chase impossible beauty standards. And that got a pop. And I was like, whoever wrote that fire them. All right? Whoever wrote that line talking about Natalya's boobs, fire them. It's the only good thing about Natalya. Right? Why are we denigrating the only good thing about Natalya? Is how big her jugs are. That's it. That's the only good thing about her. But Ronda continued as saying that Natalya lacks talent or natural talent and charisma despite her heritage and pedigree. And that the only way she's going to become a main attraction in this company is by impersonating her. And so they got into a fight to which Natalya hit her with a stroller. That part was funny. But I was like, oh no, this segment, of course, Ronda had no bass in her voice. Her voice was just not good. She got the better of the promo battle, which she should. They're friends in real life, so I'm pretty sure, Natty wasn't buried by the whole boobs stuff. In fact, she loves showing off her titties. It is what it is. I really wish she hadn't said that, though. I got into it with a bodyslam.net guy over this promo because I'm guessing it was a him. It was his opinion that if you're going to go with making fun of Natalya's boobs, that Natalya should have brought up that Ronda Rousey lost and quit the UFC. And people don't understand that you cannot really damage your commodities that way. I know that wrestling fans have kind of been conditioned that, certain things that you say, like, of course, talking about somebody's dead mother or whatever, dead daddy or something like that, is dead brother or something like that. Yeah, that's a little over the line. But you don't want to diminish Ronda Rousey by talking about her losing 2 fights and leaving. She won more fights than she lost, for starters. Secondly, she lost more fights than Brock. She lost fewer fights than Brock, I should say. Because she only lost twice and then she quit. Brock lost and then had a couple of no contests because he, should we have Roman Reigns in the ring talking about Brock losing to, Overeem or, like what the fuck? Why are we? It's not relevant to this angle, At least when Ronda Rousey was talking about Natalya's boobs, it was in some way relevant to the angle because Natalya looked different and she had confused some people who were slapping her hands, and she had even confused me because she looked so different. So yeah, it was a thing where Natalya's looks were important to this angle. If Ronda Rousey had lost by submission, which I don't think she did, I think she lost both matches by knockout, then we could have a conversation about whether her MMA record would have been important. But you also don't diminish something that's, costing you so much money. I don't know how much they're paying Ronda, but they're paying Ronda a lot. And you don't want to go out there and start diminishing her by talking about how she lost and all that kind of shit. You want to maintain that whole baddest woman on the planet. That's your gimmick. That's the money. They continue to do that with Mike Tyson even after he lost. The baddest man on the planet. Even Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man. He wasn't even that anymore when he was in WWE. He wasn't the world's most dangerous man anymore. Hell, he had already lost UFC fights. And I don't remember WWE even talking about him losing UFC fights. We don't harp enough about CM Punk losing and not winning one fight in UFC. If that's going to be the case. Why didn't Hangman Page talk about that? Why isn't Hiroshi Tanahashi? I will give anybody $20 if Hiroshi Tanahashi mentions at any point that CM Punk never won an MMA fight. He probably won't mention it. What the fuck for? It's not relevant to what's going on right now. I really wish. Now, yes, it's part of the character because part of the character is what you're monetizing, but that's also why you don't mention it. You don't mention anything that's going to diminish the value of that asset. You want Ronda to increase in value, not to be diminished in value, especially not for somebody like Natalya. Natalya can't go any lower. So sure, Ronda is going to go out there and make Natalya look bad. Natalya can't go any lower. Nobody believes that Natalya has a chance to win. Nobody cares about her. She's been there forever, and nobody can count how many times she's won titles or lost titles or do anything. She's had decent to good matches, but the amount of Natalya storylines that are memorable, you can count on one hand missing fingers. Okay, it doesn't matter. She doesn't matter. She's not important. She's just Ronda's friend. She's in this position because Sasha Banks walked out. You know? So now we're sitting here, stuck here. Why are we diminished Ronda Rousey? That doesn't make any sense. And I really wish people would stop doing that. That's like the 5th or 6th time I've heard somebody say, or read somebody say, why can't we talk about Ronda losing in MMA? And then somebody said, well, it's because Ronda doesn't want to talk about it. I'm like, okay, so what's the point? Like, what's your point? So what? Like, I'm all for wrestlers having boundaries. You know, if they don't want you talking about the MMA losses, okay, cool. If they don't want you talking about their dead mother, their dead dad, their dead brother, or whatever, that's off the limits, okay, cool. You know, that should be how it is. You're a wrestler. You can set your own limits. And if that's one of Ronda's limits, it's a weird one. But if it's a sensitive subject for her, because especially since it sent her to depression, and yeah, she really kind of fell off with that whole, she wanted to kill herself and all that kind of stuff. Now, I know I'm getting into the weeds. I'm starting to get into that tangential speech. But I do want to talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people saw that as being like mental weakness. They don't understand that a lot of fighters go through that. You know, because losing is embarrassing. She had never really lost before. So losing twice and being known as a loser and being seen as a loser, it did fuck with her ego. You know, there was a fighter, Floyd Patterson. He had been embarrassed by Muhammad Ali because he refused to call Muhammad Ali Muhammad Ali. So Muhammad Ali embarrassed him. And in the book, King of the World, it says that Floyd Patterson, after the fight, he just disappeared. He had basically put on a trench coat and a hat and he didn't go home. He went to the middle of nowhere and was kind of like just living out in the sticks for several weeks after he got embarrassed by Muhammad Ali. He was just so embarrassed he couldn't show his face in public. He didn't even go home to his family, his wife and children. And that's and I've heard many MMA fighters and stuff like that talk about how hard it is to go back to your family after you got embarrassed like that. So Ronda being, you know, depressed after she lost is something that, you know, people go through. I've heard of basketball players going through it. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about the game after you lose. That's why they get so agitated with the whole post-game stuff. You know, it's easy to talk about the game when you win. It's not fun to talk at all when you lose. And then when that stuff is mandated by these unions and the league and shit, you end up with a lot of players, like some of the best players acting up is because a post game, you know, and they don't really want to be there because you lost and you put all your effort and stuff into it and you still lost. So people should pay more attention to that and not try to use that as a negative. Enough about that, though. All right, Gunther defeated Ricochet to maintain the Intercontinental Championship. Right decision, of course. Max Dupree, Maximum Male Models, was once again postponed. This time it's because Adam Pearce screwed it up again and failed to provide a locker room that is approximately 68.3 degrees and stocked with the finest local waters. And Max Dupree got very close into Adam Pearce's face and said that he's a saboteur. And he refuses to show his models in these conditions. So next week, they'll do it again. They'll try it again to titillate the juices of your guilty pleasures. A lot of people, because we are a very impatient society, we're already calling this what was this, Emelina, the new Liv Morgan, where we're going to keep doing this again and again and pushing it back, almost as if they don't have a plan. It's like, this is part of the plan, you know. They're already telling the story that these guys are going to be divas. And they're going to be like movie stars. Like, they kind of did the whole thing with Max Dupree. He's talking like, we didn't ask for anything ridiculous like a bowl of green M&Ms. Which is like, when you know Hollywood types, they do have those crazy rules. Like, you know, only green M&Ms, or, you know, Nobody can wear gym shoes, no jeans in my presence. Don't look at me in the eye. And I've heard people say like it's not about that. It's about whether people can pay attention to detail. It's a test to see if people can pay attention to detail. I've heard that, and that's a good rationalization for being a dickhead. But if you ask somebody for a bowl of green M&Ms and they fuck up and put some brown ones in there, and you feel like they can't be trusted because of that, you're an asshole. All right. I mean, you're an asshole because now you're giving people things to be distracted about. It's one thing to say, hey, make sure my sound is this way and the lighting is this way. But when you're giving people just completely ridiculous rules, you're an asshole. But that's the story that they're telling with Max Dupree. They don't get it. They think they're just putting it off. It's like, no, they're building up, not just building up anticipation, but they're also telling the story of the characters. That, these characters are tedious and they are being, Max Dupree wants to make sure he's being an agent. He's been an asshole agent because this is what agents do. Like, they're the ones who gets in contact with the venue and says, oh yes, no one's allowed to wear red because, Mariah is wearing red today, or, some shit like that. And that's the kind of shit that they try to pull. And it's always the agents that do that kind of stuff and get it in the contracts that nobody can wear red because Mariah is wearing red today and all that shit. So that's what he's doing. They're already telling the story, but a lot of people are not getting that. They just think that they're stalling, that they're postponing it. It's like, no, this is part of the story that they're telling. Is it an important part? Not really, but this is a gimmick, brother. This shit is probably gonna last 3 months tops before everybody get bored with it, and it's gonna be on main event or they're gonna be doing jobs, and eventually Max Dupree is probably gonna have to get in the ring himself because I don't think this is gonna last forever. I'll be surprised if it lasts 6 months. Let's put it like that. All right, Shotzi defeated Tamina. Heel versus heel match, very interesting. To get into the Money in the Bank ladder match, apparently Aaliyah was injured. This was not told to us until like right before the match started. So Tamina had a decent showing, actually. I don't think Tamina ever been in a Money in the Bank ladder match. Well, she won't be in this one because she lost to Shotzi, and it was great to see Shotzi win a match clean. And I think people actually wanted to cheer Shotzi. So putting her in this position, and she seemed very energetic and very happy, and and I guess she's out of the doghouse. She's actually being featured a little bit more. She did an interview, actually. I should talk about that while I'm here, where she talked about the tank being taken away from her, and she said, that wasn't her decision. It's like, well, obviously it wasn't her decision to have the tank taken away. But she also said she had never worked heel before she came to WWE and before she came to the main roster, and that she had always been the same person, even when she was on the independents. And so essentially they tried to break her out of her mold. They know that she can work babyface. They want to see if she can work heel. And that's one of those tests that WWE likes to do. That's one of the things they like to do to fuck with people, because it's one of those weird things that the company is looking for longevity, of course. So, like, yeah, Shotzi could get over as a babyface. She's always worked babyface. But what happens when she has to do something different? Can she make that work? And they decided immediately to change it. Not even to let her get over as a babyface first and then turn her heel. They decided to introduce her to turn her heel pretty much. And before she really even got over as a babyface. And that was, a decent little challenge there. And she talked about, the challenge of trying to adjust and bring out a different part of herself, and that she's starting to enjoy that process. And I was like, okay, I don't mind that. That's good. I always like for people to be challenged. She's too young to be allowed to sit and find a comfort zone and just sit in it forever. Like, yeah, she's never worked heel before. Okay, let's see what she can do. Because if it fails, then what's the worst thing that could happen? She gets fired. Then she goes on the independents back as a babyface with the tank and the horns, and she just goes right back to doing what she was doing before. Which is what 9 times out of 10 is what they do. They go and they get fired and they turn around and go right back to doing what they was doing before. So, You know, they're trying to bring out something more out of this girl. And they're also just trying to test her attitude to see if she's willing to adapt and do something different. And I can support that. I like WWE testing the talent and wanting the talent to do something different. Now, of course, there are some tests that are completely ridiculous and stupid. But, you know, it's about building trust too, you know. Can you trust the talent to do what they should be doing, you know, without complaining and whining and bitching and, you know, trying to get back into that comfort zone. But they also let people sit in the comfort zone for too long. Looking at you, New Day. All right, Pat McAfee is the last thing. Essentially, all he did was cut a really good promo calling Corbin a bum ass and a bitch ass and saying he's going to fight him at SummerSlam. You know what? I'm okay with that. Pat McAfee having matches doesn't bother me. Him having special matches doesn't bother me either. Corbin does bother me, but I expected Corbin to beat his ass tonight, but I guess they're going to save it. So Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin. I don't see Happy Corbin needing to have a match that's booked a month in advance. You know, we could very well wait until 2 weeks before the show to put Happy Corbin on it. Can we get, you know, some nice build for somebody else like that? But whatever. It is what it is, man. Pat McAfee's going to be there. It's going to rule. People are going to have fun with it. I'm pretty sure Corbin is a guy he might like to work with because they're both former football players. And I'm pretty sure Corbin's going to cut a promo about how he was a real football player, not a punter or something like that, which might be fun. And Corbin is one of the guys that WWE can trust, and putting him in this position is good for him. You know, it's showing that he hasn't lost his position. You know, he's still there, still doing his thing, and he did a good job putting over Moss. But what's next for Moss? Moss was in a backstage segment with the Street Profits. The Street Profits cut a joke. Well, D'Angelo Dawkins cut a joke, and it wasn't funny. But there's been no forward movement on Moss since he won the feud with Corbin. Meanwhile, Corbin already in another feud and already in a higher profile feud. That should tell you right there who WWE cared about and who they didn't. They got over Madcap Moss. They really did a good job getting him over, but there was no next level. You know, maybe the Intercontinental Championship is next. Hopefully. I know both him or Gunther, neither one of them should be losing, but if you look at the thing, has it set up, if you need an over baby face for Gunther to work with, I think Madcap Moss is a good one. He's got intensity, and it could work in the short term. And, you know, and maybe even in the long term, maybe Moss is the guy who beats Gunther. I don't know. Maybe you save Gunther's loss for somebody that's even higher on the roster. I don't know. But you got to take advantage of Moss while he's over. You know, them not having a second idea for Moss is embarrassing because he got over so strongly. And maybe it's just an issue where they're looking at it and saying, well, Moss got over so strong because of Corbin. And therefore Corbin is the guy who is, you know, the guy we should be pushing because he's such a strong heel. That's tough. And it might be true. It might be true. But we'll see in future weeks. But let me know what you guys thought. You know, sorry for the length of this episode. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Have a nice and productive day.